Hello ladies, welcome to day one of your six-figure plan. Okay, so I'm going to jump straight in here because I hate it when people do introductions for the first 15 minutes of their challenges. Personal pet peeve. So here's what I'm going to talk about first. If you are here, basically what you're telling me is you need a simple strategy to attract and convert ideal clients. So if you're catching the replay, that's awesome. Just type in hashtag replay. I'd love for you to say hello. If you're joining me live, please say hello. I would love to see you. But here's the thing. I want to back this up from like a 30,000 foot view for a second and talk about what it is that we're actually trying to accomplish in online business. First, I want to talk about the fact that you are here to make money and don't feel bad about that. The whole point of having a business is to make money with it. So for any of you who are like, I just do it for the love of the game, you know, it's like, well, that's awesome. But this is not a nonprofit. This is where we are here to make money. I created the Ambitious Mom community because it is for women who want to make six figures online, doing something that actually fulfills them, but still have time for their life at the same time. So it's okay to just admit that you're here to make money. So first, let's get that out of the way. I always like to open with that. Second, you need to figure out what it is that lights you up so that you will go and actually execute and take action on it consistently until successful. So many times I coach women who come in and they're like, you know what, I've been at this for a couple of years and I've done all these programs and all these courses and I've, created this and I've created that and I've been posting consistently and I've done all the things and nothing's working. But you get so far down the rabbit hole of chasing all the freebies and all the different options that are out there, you kind of lose track of what you started out to do in the first place, right? Like what you actually set out to accomplish in the first place with your business. So if that's you, that's okay. We're all good. You're in the right spot. So I'm going to talk about the three pillars that I love to talk about with online business, just to keep it super simple. And then we're going to talk about quick overview of strategy to attract and convert ideal clients quickly and consistently. And then I want to talk about finding your fire because that is so key. You build your strategy and your systems and all your action plans from the thing that lights you up, which is finding your fire. So we're going to dig into that in a second. But first, I just want to point these three things out. We got to simplify your marketing. Too much noise out there, right? Simplify. Okay, so brand. Can you hear my kids singing downstairs? They must be on their microphone. Okay, so in online business, here's what we have to deal with. We have a brand because the world needs to know that you exist, so you need a brand. I'm not talking about a fancy website with the best colors and the perfect fonts. I'm talking about who are you? How do you show up? How do people know you exist? Your identity online. That's your brand, okay? Next one is audience. Clearly, if we're gonna sell something, we need some people to sell it to, so we gotta build our audience, obviously. I know this is like super elementary, but I just wanna set the tone. And then we have something that we sell, obviously. So whether that's a service or a coaching, or some of you might even be in product sales. I coach coaches, but this stuff obviously applies to you even if you're selling a physical product. So when it comes to your brand, this is basically you, your ideal client, and whatever it is that you sell. Okay, so I just wanted to lay this foundation because now we're going to talk about, okay, so what strategy do you need in your business to build your brand, grow your audience, and sell? So we need visibility, lead gen, and a sales process. You can call this a sales flow, you can call it a process, you can call it a framework, you can call it A to Z, you can call it whatever you want. Basically, you have to be able to move a butt from, hi, how are you? I'm Mara, to, hey, here's how I can help you, sign up here, right? Okay, so when it comes to visibility, a lot of us are posting on social media. And that's awesome because that is your visibility. So if somebody comes into your world and wants to check you out, you have to be visible somewhere, right? So when I say visibility, I'm not talking about getting in front of other people's audiences at that point. That would be more of a lead gen activity to me. This is just like, who are you And if somebody stumbles across you in the world, what does that look like to them? So that's your visibility. So yes, social media is awesome and you need a content plan. But the thing that I see that is a mistake that most people make is they think that visibility is the same as lead generation. But it's not. Because for 99.9% of us, we don't post on social media and instantly get thousands of new followers on Instagram who are ideal clients ready to buy. That's not, it doesn't happen. You have to actually go out into the world and generate leads for your business who come into this world where you have this visibility. This is also where you're going to nurture your people. So you might get some followers from visibility, but like posting content to go viral is not a strategy for anybody who wants to control their own destiny. I can't even talk. Hello, ladies. Come on in and say hello if you're live. I can't see your comments, but I'm going to try to pull it up on my computer at the same time so that I can see you. Okay. I'm going to try to get comments rolling here. Of course, it's not showing up on my computer that I'm live, but I'm live, clearly. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. So, please let me know if you have made this mistake between visibility and lead gen. Have you been posting constantly on social media, but only your Aunt Shirley and some chick from high school who's still a good friend of yours is the one commenting on them? Like, that's never going to make you $1 million. So, I just want you to make sure that you don't confuse visibility with lead gen because they're two separate things. Lead gen are activities where you actually intentionally go out into the world to say, hey, I'm Mara, I do this. You know, here's some free value or something to pull somebody to so that they actually come into your world and see you, which is where your visibility starts to count. So hopefully that helps, makes sense. And then a sales process. This is another mistake that I see a lot of people making. They're like, I'm not making any sales in my business. And I'm like, okay, well, what's your sales process? And they're like, well, what do you mean? They come back to visibility. They're posting on social media consistently and hoping basically that somebody's going to message them and be like, hey, I would love to work with you, which has happened for sure. It does happen sometimes. Hey, I love what you're doing. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? That's cool. But like that doesn't happen very often. And it's not something that you can control. So it's not something that you can rely on. So when I work with a lot of women, they're very driven, they're very ambitious, and they're like, hey, I want to know what activity, what action do I go take so that it will give me the chance to make money, right? And so when you go generate leads, you're like, great, but then what do you do with them? You need to put them into some sort of a process that, you know, brings them through a few steps to get to work with you. So that can be really, really fast. That can be literally just inviting them to jump on a free call with you, a strategy call, clarity call, depending on what kind of business you're running. And then you can ask, you know, invite them into working with you on that. Or it can be a little bit more complicated. I wouldn't say complicated. It can have more steps than that, where you're going to say, okay, do you want to come in and here's my free download? A lot of people have lead magnets, right? So here's a download, or here's a masterclass that I'm hosting, or here's something to go grab and then get a little taste of what I'm like. And then there's going to be a next step and a next step and a next step, right? So depending on the price of your, Rhett is singing so loud. Hold on one second. Hey, Rhett, I'm on a live video, honey. You gotta turn that down. Okay, why? Because I'm on a live video. Because it's so loud up here too. That's a 6-year-old for you. He goes, what does that have to do with anything with me? I'm like, because we can hear you. Okay. Anyways, what I was talking about is sales process. This is the ambitious mom community. So when kids interrupt you, you just go with it, just so you know. Okay. So basically you need a process to bring somebody through. So a lot of the time for me, I will invite somebody to an event, which is what I want to talk about this week, which is a simple event strategy. Because it does kind of all of this all in one shot, and I love that. So usually I will host an event like this where people will come in, they'll kind of get a taste of what you kind of offer, how you work, what kind of vibe you have, your energy, the way you coach, the way you teach, the way you empower, whatever it is that you're doing. And then they can literally say, hey, yes, of course I would like to come and work with you, or yes, I would love you to dive into my personal situation. Because one of my processes, for example, is at the end of a lot of my events, I'll say, hey, jump on a call and we can talk about what your specific situation is. I don't always have this like perfect pitch pressure. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'll often invite people into whatever I have coming up if I have an offer, but sometimes people just want one-on-one support and they want to make sure that you understand their individual situation. So that can be part of your sales process, because let's face it, in the online world, and please go and drop this in the comments below, but like, how many times do you not trust something somebody's saying anymore because you've been burned before, or because you've heard of so many people getting burned before? Plus, there's so much noise out there. There's so many conflicting opinions. There's so many different coaching styles. You really want to make sure that the person that you hire is the one that actually is going to help you in your situation with your business. And so if you have a different type of business, non-business coach like me, then maybe that is like, you know, if you're a health coach, for example, and you're trying to prove to somebody that you can help them, well, the thing that's actually most important to that person is that you understand them. You get their pain, you get their situation. Like, I don't work with a lot of really highly driven men because they have a completely different set of problems and priorities than me. I work with ambitious moms because we have a completely different world that we live in, right? We have so many things that we're juggling in the air at all times. We need to go in. We like to work, you know, hard, but we also like to work really smart. We don't have time to stay sitting in masculine energy where you're just taking massive action in all these different directions at all times, because we don't have time for that. We need to get focused, right? So it just depends on who you're working with. Make sure you keep that in mind too. But make sure that you have some sort of a sales process. I always tell my girls, when you're first starting out, take the pressure of sales off of yourself. And at the end of one of your events or at the end of something, just have a call to action to jump on a call with you. Or also another way, depending on who your audience is, if you would like to submit like this quick 3-question or 5-question questionnaire, I'm happy to like loom you back or voice note you back with some suggestions. So it just starts the dialogue and gets things going in a very non-salesy way, which I find is really helpful. So let me know if that helps you. So I wanted to cover this just because I want to set the tone for this week, because what everyone said, I think 94% of you in the group who responded said that you wanted a simple, what did you say? A simple three-step process to attract and convert clients. So this week I want to talk about finding your fire. I'm going to talk about nailing your message. And I'm going to talk about a simple event strategy so that you can do all these things. The reason that I use events and why I think they're so powerful is because you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect messaging. You don't have to have the perfect offer. You don't have to have the perfect pitch. You don't have to be perfect in order for this to be effective and work for you to sign your ideal clients. What you need to do is start somewhere and take action in the one direction though. So who here has been to one of my, if you're on the replay, you can comment as well, but have you been to one of my events before where we talked about finding your fire? I just want to get a gauge for who's here right now live. And I still can't see my comments, which drives me bananas. But let me know. I'm going to see if it's on my computer again. Why isn't it? Oh yes, here I am live. It also says there's no comments yet. Isn't that weird? Facebook drives me crazy sometimes. Okay, well, I'm just gonna fly blind. Okay, so I would love it if you still comment along, because hopefully these comments will load eventually and then they'll come up. I don't know why it's doing that, but anyways, okay, so when it comes to finding your fire, I would love to know if you've been to one of my workshops before and you know what I'm talking about when I say find your fire. But here it is. The reason that I cover this, and I'm so passionate about this, and I talk about it in like all the events that I'm ever on, or all the podcasts that I get to go on, the events that I usually host myself. If you've been to any of the Ambitious Mom Summits, I always talk about getting back to finding your fire first. Because I don't care if you're just starting business or you've been in business for 10 years. Most people stray off the path of what they actually want, and they end up going down this horrible rabbit hole of things that they think they should be doing. And anybody who's ever been in corporate and who's been super successful but then totally unfulfilled and burnt out knows that you don't get far if you're trying to do everything that you should be doing all the time. And it doesn't matter if you've been successful in corporate or not. You probably have a people pleaser tendency, or maybe you were like a straight A student and you don't want to do anything wrong. It doesn't matter. We get caught up in society, even with parenting, with how we're supposed to act as wives, with whatever. We get caught up in the Pinterest era of things that the way something should be or should look or should feel. And then we end up having all these issues afterwards to try to deal with because we can't figure out what it is that we actually want. So what I always say is, with your business, what is it that you actually want to do? What do you want your business to look like? I talk, obviously, again, I'm going to mention this again. I talk about making 6 figures and still having time for your life, because that's a massive priority for me. I was making 6 figures in corporate. I had already gotten myself to a place where I had tons of flexibility, and I was really good at my job, but I didn't love it. It drove me crazy, and it made me burn out really bad, and my health suffered big time. And then I ended up in the health and wellness space for a while, for a few years, and what I realized is most people's health problems are coming from their stress problems because of what they're doing for their work. And so I always talk now about like work a different way so you can live a different way. And I mean that from the very core of what that is. So if you can relate to any of that, please share in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation at work where you just like kind of hated your life because you were so stressed out? And especially once we have kids and we move into that next chapter, I guess, let's call it, because that's what happened to me. I moved into that next chapter of my life and just knew that like if I didn't get out, I was going to be like that forever, and I was miserable. Something my husband used to say is like, you're never even here even when you're here, because I was always working in my head. Now I'm kind of always working, but I freaking love it, so it's like a totally different energy, you know what I mean? Okay, so find your fire. This is an exercise that I have everyone go through when they first start working with me, which is we need to figure out what you want instead of what you should want. So this is going to be your homework tonight. It's kind of like a journaling exercise, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to take out a sheet of paper, and on one side you're going to write down, what do I want? And then in the little tiny letters on the side, you're going to write, how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? How do I want my kids to see me? What legacy do I want to leave? Like, what do you actually want? So it's like, what do you want your business to look like? What do you want your schedule to be like? What do you want your demeanor every day to be like? What do you want your fitness to look like? Good Lord, I would love it if I could convince myself to exercise, but I hate that stuff. Anyway, I don't mind it if I'm going walking with a girlfriend and I'm talking. And sometimes I go for a walk because then I can listen to training videos or podcasts and stuff like that. But I have to combine that because I don't enjoy just going for a walk. It's boring. And I'm like 7 months pregnant right now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm starting to puff up a little. Anyway, and I get a cramp just from walking in Superstore. So the whole exercise thing is off the table for me. Again, I'm not upset about it. Anyways, but part of my future self is I want to get back to being a runner. I want to get back to being an athlete because that's something I used to do. And for all kinds of reasons, I got derailed off that train, but I do want to get back there. And so slowly but surely, I have to work my way into it. Okay, so here's why this is important. Wants versus shoulds. When you start building a business that you want to be building, it is very different than the energy that you will come at a business that you should be doing. Same thing with your to-do list. I bet you have a to-do list that's this long and nothing on that is actually producing results in your business, but you're staying really busy doing all the things that you should. Do you see what I'm saying? If you are, okay, I'll give you another example of how that looks in your business. If you know that talking to real people, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. If you know that talking to real people is going to be the thing that gives you the messaging clarity that you need, the offer clarity that you're going to need, the ability to know what kind of people you want to work with versus others, the chemistry, the energy you get from certain types of conversations. Talking to real people is the number one thing that will move your business forward on your way to your first 10K. If you're looking to build a 6-figure business, you're going to have to hit 5K consistently before you get to your 10K, but then you can get to your 15 and then you can scale, right? So the thing about it is that everyone's looking for these fancy magic solutions. And when you're going to learn from a 7-figure guru, I've done this many times, so I can tell you this, the strategy that they're teaching, that they're using, that you're trying to mimic or copy or learn from would never have worked for them when they were on their way to their first 5K. So talking to real people is the fastest way to deal with 99% of your marketing problems when you're on your way to your first 10K month. And the reason I say that is because you don't have an audience built yet, unless you actually are an influencer of some kind and then you just came into the business world or the business coaching world. But basically, you do not have anyone watching you. So your visibility strategy, remember on the other side of the page, your visibility strategy isn't getting you anywhere because you don't have an audience built. You have to build your audience basically first. I mean, who are you going to talk to? You have to go talk to real people. You build your audience, then you have a visibility strategy, then you have a sales process you pull them to, right? And then there's all these different pieces all over the place. And now we're building all the shoulds. Okay, well, I should have a lead magnet, and I should have an email funnel, and I should have a website, and I should have all these things that are connecting in the background, and I should have, all these frameworks and all this technology and all these CRMs and softwares and blah, and then you just go crazy, right? And you're working your butt off and nothing is moving. And that is when you're in the shoulds. When you are building a business that you want, you tell me, here's what I want. Here's what I want it to look like. Here's how I want to show up. Here's who I want to work with. Here's the problem I want to solve. And that sounds so basic, but it is the thing that will move your business the fastest if you're trying to hit your 5 or your 10K months consistently. We have to take those steps at the beginning of your business before we can get fancy. So that's why a lot of the time I'm saying these days, you can get fancy later, but stop with the bells and whistles when you haven't even pulled in consistent clients for your 5 or 10K months. So wants versus shoulds. I'm going to back this up even to a little bit more like life. So it's life and business. So when I had my second son, he was 5 months old and I was going through this period where I had this awesome sales job to go back to. 6 figures, 3 days a week in the office, flexibility. I kind of could run my own show. I could do whatever I wanted. But then I was struggling so bad with it because I didn't want to go. And I was dealing with all this shame and guilt. And maybe you've had this situation happen to you before, but all this shame and guilt and these thoughts and these voices in my head. And I was going kind of crazy. Plus I wasn't sleeping because I had a newborn. So then I went to see a psychologist, I think she was, or psychiatrist, whatever, a shrink, sure. So I was like, I need somebody to help me sort out my thoughts that's not in my day-to-day life to help me get this figured out, because I don't understand why I don't want to go back to this job. It's amazing. What a great opportunity and huge room for growth within that company too. So I went and saw this girl. I talked to her for an hour, and at the end of it, she goes, okay, I've circled the word should at least 13 times. And she's like, and I lost count after a while. She's like, you were shoulding all over yourself. And I was like, what are you talking about? We need to nail this down. I was very masculine energy always. And she's just like, I want you to do this. So this is where this exercise comes from that I'm going to give you guys for homework. She goes, before you get home to the craziness of your house today and all the noise and all the distractions, I want you to pull over somewhere and I want you to just sit down and I want you to write this out. And I said, okay, what is it? She's like, what do I want in terms of how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? How do I want my kids to see me? And then on the other side, you're going to flip it over and you're going to write, I should, ... And this is very important to do it just like this. I should, ... That's all you write on the back. So she said, first you sit there and you think about all the things that you really want. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my schedule to look like? Want. And it's like happy, chest opening, light thoughts. You know what I mean? So you write all that down, and I think I wrote for 2 pages. And I got a different paper because I didn't obviously fit onto the back. But anyways, I got a different paper and I wrote, I should, ... And then it just, all you do is keep repeating the phrase, I should, over and over and over again. I should this, I should that, I should this. And so what happened was all of my shoulds were somebody else's voice or somebody else's thought or my perception of what somebody else was thinking about me. So it was a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of negativity. And as I was writing it, my body kind of, turtled in a little bit. It is not a heart-opening experience to write down your should list, but it is so key to do it because it helps you identify all of the things that are actually holding you back. I should be grateful for this opportunity. I should be happy. I shouldn't want more all the time. I should, you know what I mean? Like, these are the kinds of things that were coming up for me, and yours will be a little bit different, and that's normal. Everybody's got different voices in their heads. And a lot of it is coming from very well-meaning people in my life, and it will be from yours too. Like, I should stick with something for once. That was one of my big ones. Well, what if I'm the kind of person that likes to chase after what makes me happy? You know what I mean? So anyways, write down your shoulds. And then the thing that you're going to notice the most is the want side is going to be that like inner core desire, that fire that lives inside of you, the dreamer, the one that everybody says is unrealistic. That's fine. Who cares? We're not listening to them. Those are on the should side, right? So you're going to find your fire on that first page, and then you're going to turn it over and look at your shoulds, and it's going to be somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's voices, somebody else's opinions, somebody else's perspectives, or your feelings about somebody else's perspectives that might even just be made up in your head. And the point I'm trying to make is the shoulds don't matter. The wants do. So when you get super clear on what it is that you want, then we build out a business that matches that. So when I'm talking about the business side of things now, it's going to be very clear that you're going to figure out what it is that you want to do, what you want your schedule to look like, because there's no point in building a business where you're just working 60 hours a week from home. And I'm not saying that there aren't going to be seasons of hustle in your business, because I do think there are. But I think for us to get out of the hustle and grind of this like never ending 60 to 80 hour work week mentality that the world puts on us in order to be successful is so important. So make sure you're designing your life. Six-figure success and time for your life doesn't happen by accident. You design it that way. So for example, right now I'm having my fourth baby on November 6th. So I have like 2.5 months left until I have my fourth kid. And I have help hired for home because that's super important to me, that I don't have to wake my kids up to take them to daycare. And I don't bash anybody else who does. That was one of the things I said when I first had kids. I don't want to put kids in daycare. I love having a nanny in the house because then I'm still here for my kids. That was a priority of mine. So this is what I'm talking about, the design part. What do you want? If you have little kids, do you want them to still be in your own house? Or are you cool dropping them off at daycare? Do you want them to go to a family member's house? Do you want to do like a share with another mom maybe? Like, it doesn't matter what the answer to the questions are. It's just the only part that matters is that it's important to you and it's what your heart opens up and says or wants. Or you'll know that you're onto it when you feel like a heart excited feeling or excited butterflies in your stomach. Like, what if I could have it all? You know what I mean? Stop trying to do it all to have it all. Oh, that's a totally separate subject. But anyway, I want you to make sure that you get super focused on what it is that you want so that we can build out your strategy and your systems for your business that match who you are and what you want. Okay, so that is your homework for tonight. I have a Find Your Fire workbook actually that I will drop the link for underneath this video, and I will also email it out with the replay of this vid. Because it walks us through, very similar to what I just talked about, the wants versus the shoulds exercise. And I would love it if you would please go into the homework thread tonight and post out the wants versus the shoulds, or at least you don't have to actually list them all if you don't want to. I would just take a picture, like a screenshot, and share. But if you're not comfortable sharing the specifics, that's totally fine. But just tell us the ahas. What is it that you noticed about the difference between the wants and the shoulds? Tomorrow we are going to talk about messaging and how to talk to your ideal clients so that you can nail the messaging that pulls them in. And then on day 3, we're going to be talking about, on Thursday, we will talk about a simple system to attract and convert your clients using simple virtual events. I'm not talking any bells and whistles. I'm talking super simple stuff that people actually want to come to. You're going to be able to give a lot of value, and you're going to be able to not perfectly invite them to work with you. Imperfectly. Is that the way you do it? I got pregnancy brain. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. please go and do the wants versus shoulds exercise. It will take you 10, probably 15 minutes to do it. Try to do it in a space where you don't have kids and a million things around you, and get super clear on what you want. I really want you to get really clear on what it is that you want your business to look like, who it is that you want to serve, who do you want to work with, who lights you up, who do you get off of a call with and you're so excited and you're so energized. Those are the ones you want to pull in. And then what problem do you want to solve? Like, what do you want to teach? What makes you excited to go talk about for a long period of time? I could stand here and talk about finding your fire forever. Like, it's so exciting to me about how you build a business and how you figure out what lights you up and how that should lead the way to your success. It's so exciting to me. So I could talk about that a lot. But what is it that you love to talk about? What is it that you love to teach? What is it that you love to coach on? So get really clear on that, who you want to serve, the problem you want to solve, and what you want your business to look like. And then I would love it if you would share in the homework thread. But also that big aha between the wants and the shoulds, that's where you should start. It is so key to get that clarity, and then we're going to build everything out from there. So hopefully that was helpful. That's a wrap for day one. Hopefully you got some value out of it, and I will drop that link down below, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Cheers. Have a great night, ladies.